Well, hello there and welcome to this online collab. I'm Shekeinah and we are going to talk all things vocal directing, so I hope you're excited and ready to go because I am pretty pumped to chat with you guys today. Okay, so some of you might actually be thinking, what in the world is a vocal director and what do they even do? Well, as a vocal director, you're actually in charge of overseeing the vocals in a service. So your frontline vocals, or some of you might call them BVs, either or, we call them frontline vocals here. And so your sole purpose is to make sure that they are prepared, that they're ready to go, and that they know what they're singing. And so we can actually break this down in two responsibilities that you have as a vocal director. So responsibility number one is to bring leadership and guidance to the vocals, because let's be honest, vocals need some leadership and guidance because we are a fun group of people. And sometimes we just need to be told what to do. And that's actually a part of your responsibility is to fill them in of going, you're gonna sing this, or you're not going to sing this, or you're gonna do this, or you're not gonna do that. So you need to think ahead of time of what that guidance that you're going to bring ahead of time before your rehearsal and before you head into that service. The second thing that's a part of your responsibility is actually to provide feedback to the vocalists, because people can only grow unless they get told what they're doing wrong or the things that they need to fix. And as a vocal director, you have been entrusted with that opportunity to speak into their lives. And so take note of what they're doing and how they're singing and the things that need to change, because when you step into that vocal director position, you get to go, okay, so when you were singing See the Light, you are actually just a little bit pitchy. So one thing that you need to do is work on this, this, and this. So what I'd actually love to do is break down a service. So here at Hillsong Church, what we do is we normally rehearse on a Thursday night and we rehearse on a Sunday morning before the service actually happens. And there's a few different roles that we go through with our vocal directors that makes it really, really easy. And so if you've got a notebook, get it out, write these things down because I'm sure that they'll be really helpful for you. Okay, so thing number one, pre-sound check. So before anybody gets on stage, when they walk into the room, what are you doing as a vocal director? So one thing that I would aim for you to do to start off with is you're gonna start off with a good, solid warm-up with your team. Now, a good solid warm-up is not 5 minutes long, as much as we would like to think it is, but it's actually not. If you want a good solid warm-up, a solid warm-up can take anywhere between 20 minutes to 30 minutes to warm up a vocalist's voice, depending on the time of day. So for us, in the mornings when it's 6 o'clock a.m. or 6:30 a.m. when we have our vocals come, we give them a 30-minute warm-up because it takes that much time to actually begin to warm up their voice. In the afternoon, it's usually okay to do a 15 to 20-minute warm-up because at that point in time, they've been talking all day, they've been singing sometimes in the morning service already, and so by the time you get to an evening service, they're pretty warmed up already, and so you can work with 15 to 20 minutes. Now in regards to the amount of warm-ups that you use, what's a good warm-up to do? There are actually plenty of resources on YouTube, on Google, on Spotify. You actually can just go and Google, what's a great warm-up? And a lot of times, some of these people have resourced us with 30-minute warm-ups ready to go. There are apps. And so I actually encourage you, head online, Google some stuff, great warm-up apps, great warm-up tutorials, and figure out the thing that works best for you. Trial it on yourself. Because what I always do is if something works for myself, then I'm almost positive it's gonna work for my team. And I have a literal note in my iPhone that has all of the warm-ups that I absolutely really, really love, and I just change up the combinations and it works out real well. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do before I even head up on stage to do a sound check. I'm gonna warm up everybody, I'm gonna make sure that they're ready to go. The other thing that I'm gonna do before we head into a sound check is I'm gonna tell everybody what the set list is if they don't already know, and I'm gonna go over any unclear parts. So if there is a newer song that we haven't done before, I might do a sing through of it just so everybody's on the same page. If there's a specific harmony that's a little bit more difficult on a song, I actually might take some time to go over that harmony just so before that they go on platform that they're good, they're ready to go, and there's not gonna be any curveballs thrown there. So that's the first thing I do. Pre-sound check, I've had a chat with them, I've said good morning and good afternoon, I've warmed them up, I've filled them in on the set list, and now we move to our next bit, which is the sound check. So here's the thing to keep in mind with the sound check. We actually need to ensure that every single vocalist, so here at Hillsong Church and a lot of our campuses, but not all of them, we actually use in-ear monitoring systems. And so it's making sure that people have the right tools and equipment in order to facilitate what we need. So having some in-ears. Now, let me just fill you in. This actually doesn't mean that you need to go out and buy the most expensive in-ear molds that you can find. There are so many places that do generic in-ears that work so well in most church environments. And so don't feel like you have to break the bank in order to be able to sing on your church's platform, because that's actually not necessary. But it is making sure that your team are equipped with, that they have at least some form of in-ear or headphone that they can put on so that they can hear themselves. Or if you guys have wedges, that the wedges are turned properly towards the vocalist so that they're able to hear and do exactly what they need to do. Then you move into your sound check song. So for us, we do a live from Hillsong Young and Free as our sound check song. It works out really, really well. The reason why we do that is it's actually to have something really consistent that the vocals can sing. Instead of just choosing some random song that they might not know as well, or even a song from the set list, by having the same consistent song time after time after time, we're actually ensuring that no matter what, they know that song, they know the parts to it, they know they can sing it, and we actually get a more effective sound check. As a vocal director, during the sound check, you want to ensure that your vocalists are singing the part that you've assigned them in the sound check, because it actually helps our front of house operators, it helps the monitor engineers, it helps the grander teams understand what you have put in place. And so if you've assigned someone to sing the melody and then sound check comes in and they feel like singing a harmony, it's actually your responsibility as a vocal director to come back up to them and go, actually, can you sing the melody? Because sometimes as vocals, I get it, I'm a vocal, you just do your own thing, the thing that comes into your head, what you want to do. And sometimes we forget that there's a bigger picture, that there's more people serving on the team than just us. And so make sure you help that vocalist to help everybody else in the team. Let them know what they're supposed to sing and make sure that they're singing it. So that's going to be the big thing. Okay, sound check. Done. You've done a great sound check. Everybody sang the part that they needed to sing. It was the best thing in the whole wide world. What are we doing next? So next, we move to what happens during the rehearsal. So this is the vocal director's time to shine. This is where we get to craft. This is where we get to play around. This is where we get to see this as a piece of art and going, I love this part of the service or the rehearsal because I actually get to go, this is my contribution to how it's going to sound and what it's going to be like. And I feel like a vocal director actually has the ability to help the congregation sing more or sing less based upon the decisions they decide to make of, I want everybody singing this specific thing, or I don't want everybody to sing this specific thing. So I personally take it really seriously when I get to this part of the rehearsal and the crafting time and working with our worship leaders and working with our MDs to make sure that the whole picture that we're trying to portray for the morning is actually really clear. And so it's our time to shine. During the rehearsal, what are we looking at? One thing that you're doing is you're listening to every single individual vocalist. You're making sure, are they blending? That's a huge thing with vocal directing. Are your vocalists blending? Because sometimes they're not. How about their pitch? What are they sounding like? Are they sharp? Are they flat? That's a really big thing, because if someone's sharp or flat, they're not going to be used as much. And our whole goal if we're rostering someone on is that they get to be used. They're not just a pretty face. Sometimes they are a pretty face, but they're there to use their voice and their gift for the glory of God, and you're there to help them that. So if they're sharp or flat, you actually have to let them know. They're phrasing. So is someone singing on the beat, and is someone else singing off the beat when the song is supposed to be on the beat? It's actually really important, because we don't want any of our singers to be a distraction from everything that we're trying to work on and what we're trying to work towards. And so it's actually going, if someone is lagging in how they're singing something, if the song is supposed to be really staccato, and instead they're singing it really legato, well, that's not going to help anybody. And so it's the vocal director's opportunity to come and go, hey, actually, for this part, could you sing it like this? and actually call them up on that, because the more that we can sound like one sound, the more unity that we can bring to the service, and that's ultimately what we want. Another great thing to do during the rehearsal is actually go up to your front of house operator and have a chat with them. They're the one that's doing all of the mixing. They're hearing the rawest sound, and they're going to be able to give you some really, really great feedback. Now, if for any reason that there is a front of house operator watching this, may I encourage you to be very kind with your words. Give feedback that the vocal director can actually relay onto the team. Because if you're harsh and if you're unkind, we actually can't use that, because it's not going to build anybody up. We still are a church, and we still want to build people up with every single thing that we're doing. So chat to your front of house operator, see what they're thinking, get feedback from them, because they're going to be hearing things that you aren't hearing, and they're going to be able to give feedback to your team that maybe that you can't give. And so I love chatting to our front of house operators. They might be annoyed by me sometimes, but it's okay. I visit them way too much. But it's a lot of really, really great fun. So go talk to them. And a lot of times they have the ability to take a listen to the raw mix. If you've never listened to a raw mix before, brace yourself, because it is a whole lot of fun. But take a listen to the raw mix so that you can actually hear exactly what it sounds like, because the front of house operators are brilliant at what they do, and they are able to hide a whole lot of things. So it's always good. And for those of you who might have multiple campuses and you do a lot of streaming in between your campuses, it's always good to go back to broadcast. Take a listen to broadcast as well. Talk to your broadcast engineer. See if they have any feedback of how what you're singing is going to translate to the multiple services that you might have. So we're going to visit broadcast. We're going to visit front of house. Another thing that we're going to do is we're going to communicate to the vocal team the direction of each song, and we're going to correct any issues. So if I'm doing song 1, which is a praise song, I'm going to go, okay, guys, I want you singing melody from the top. The person that's singing harmony, okay, so when we get to that chorus 1, the soprano, you're gonna split to that harmony. When we go back to verse 2, I want you to come back to the melody for me, and then maybe on chorus 2, I want that soprano part and I want that tenor line going, and it's gonna be amazing. So these are the kind of directions that you're giving people. You're letting them know, okay, I want you to sing melody here, or I actually want you to have some parts here, or actually for this one verse, I want the worship leader to take it instead, and you guys are gonna worship in that moment, but not on mic. And then for that chorus, hop on mic. There's so many combinations. There's no right or wrong, but you need to do what you feel is best for the service. Lastly, during the rehearsal, you need to be encouraging to your team. Our words have life, or they can bring death. And the last thing that you want to do when you're talking to people who are about to lead a bunch of people into worship is to discourage them. So make sure that you're being as kind as you can to your team in the feedback that you give. You can give feedback to someone that they're a little bit pitchy without being like, whoa, your tone right now is rough. Your pitch is all over the place. I cannot believe it. You need to fix that. That's harsh. And if you were to hear something like that, it would be awful. But instead, you can go up to them, ask them how their inner mix is going if they're struggling with their pitch. Do they have enough keys? Do they have enough bass in their mix? Because, fun fact, that's what vocalists use to pitch off of. That's our easiest thing to pitch off of. If their blending isn't going very well, ask them the question, hey, do you have other vocalists in your ears at the moment? Like, what levels do you have them at? Do you have them coming through your wedge, or is it just you? You can't blend with someone if they're not in your mix. And so there's little ways that you can ask questions that are really kind without completely putting someone down, because the last thing that we want to do is put anybody down before they're about to lead people into the presence of God. So that's what we're doing during the rehearsal. We're checking how everybody's going. We're giving them direction. We're communicating with our production teams, because what they're doing is really important and it matters to what we're doing. So that's during the rehearsal. Now, during the service, what does it look like? Well, at this point in time, we're not completely off the hook. We are being observant during the service. We're seeing what's going on. We're listening. What we did in rehearsal, are they actually still doing it once we get to the service? Or have they changed everything because, they got really excited, led by the Spirit, the Holy Ghost told them to go to this part? It's actually following those things up. And then after that service, we're correcting that of going, hey, I noticed that you went to this, alto part, but you were supposed to stay on the melody. Is there any way that you'd be able to stay on the melody for me? Or, hey, I noticed that your breathing was a little bit all over the place. Is there any way that you can take deeper breaths so that your breath control can just sustain you for what you need to do? And so those little things are what we're listening to. We need to be able to give them feedback. And that's when we come to after the service. So by the time the service is done, we're actually giving them this feedback. We're letting them know, guys, well done. You did it. You showed up. You led people into the presence of God. And these are the things that we can work on for next time. Or it's going, hey, John, when you sang that part, it was absolutely incredible. Or Jessica, when you sang that melody and held it down, it was beautiful because people were able to lean on that and it was so great. Give them really good feedback so that when by the next time that they come and they're serving, they're actually a little bit better because of your leadership. So, my friends, that is vocal directing in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something from it. And hey, really quickly, a really quick shout out to my bestie, Janelyn Taylor and Lee in Wilmington, North Carolina. I love you guys so much. And let's be honest, I love all of you. Thanks for being here with us today. Enjoy the rest of Worship and Creative Conference, and we hope to see you next year.